So in InDesign, make your new document. Usually by default it's letter size, but we're going to set this up to be 15 inches wide and 7 inches tall. The next thing that you need to do, we're not going to worry about margins, so I'm going to set these back to 0. And since I've got the link turned on, they'll all turn to 0 by themselves. If you don't see it, you can click on More Options, and here's your bleed edge. Do y'all remember what bleed is in a document? What is bleed?
Outside of the document, like overprinting.
Okay. Exactly. There's no printer in the world that's going to print all the way to the edge of something. Okay? Instead, what they do is they take your whatever document you have and they make it slightly larger than is necessary. And then they trim it down to size. And so that there's no edge to it, so there's no white, they make the document pictures a little bit larger. So on our document, we want to have an edge, usually about 1/8 of an inch, that's a little bit larger than our whole document by itself. That's called the bleed edge. To set up the bleed edge, at the very bottom, 0.125 is 1/8 of an inch. And you got that turned on so it quickly types in from there. That's all you need to do to set up your document. We're not going to worry about facing pages also. And we'll say OK. So here's our new document that we're working with. Notice the pink line, or it could be a black line if you didn't have my margin, is my document edge. This red line is my bleed edge that everything needs to be overprinted to from there. So here's the second thing. Let's divide this up into 3 separate areas. If you don't have your rulers turned on, you can go to View, and there's, in my case, I have them turned on. Command R will turn on and off your rulers at the top. Click on the left ruler and drag it, try again, to the right, and you can see it's going to start to make a line. If you hold down your Shift key, it'll snap to each individual point. In this case, right at 5 is where I want. I'm going to let go. So there's a guide. Let's pull another one. Holding down Shift at 5 and at 10. So now I've got it divided into 3 separate areas. The next thing I need to do is to determine where I want it to be cut at. So this one, really it doesn't matter how far up or far down it is, but in my case it does need to be divided into 3 separate areas, with the middle being the largest area. So if I had to guesstimate it, not quite 1/4, somewhere along there would be where I want it to be at. For this one, I'm telling you, I want you to pull it down to 2 inches. So I'm looking at my ruler as I click and drag. So there's 2 inches, and I need it 2 inches from the bottom edge as well, which is right here at 5. Starting to take shape. Pretty cool. Okay, here's the next thing. Let's look at our template. Let's look at an example. See if we can notice it. Notice that here's our front edge. It's going to be needing a fold line right there, and it's going to cut into that edge. And so the first half of the entire thing needs to be cut in half. I need to bisect where that is, which means I need another guide for my front part. Have I lost everybody? I need to draw another one. So what's half of 5? 2.5, right there. Same way for my back edge. It needs to be cut along that edge too. So where should this one be? 12.5. That's it. That's all the guides that we need to pull from here. Next thing, I'm going to make my cut lines, which need to fall from this point all the way to this point. Here's how to draw a cut line. I'm going to use my line tool. All it does is you click and drag, it draws a line. I'm going to click right here and drag it over to this point right here. To change up the style of it, usually I don't want to see this type of line. It's just something I just want to be there when I do start cutting. So I'm going to make it very, very thin, changing it from 1 point to half of a point. And also I'm going to make it a dashed style. So this one right here. So now this is the line, what the line will look like. I'll move it back into place. On your instructions, I'm giving you the X and Y coordinate and the length of it. So you can actually type in the X and Y right here and give the exact length, and it'll draw the same thing. Let's draw another one down here. Click and drag, and then format it to be half of a point and also a dash line. I'm going to hide my rulers by hitting Command and the colon, and so this is what would be printed off right now. Here's the next thing. Now we're going to draw off each individual boxed area so that you know where the front, the back, and each panel is from here. To do this, we need to turn on our grid so I know exactly where to place things. To see a document's grid, you can go to View. There's your grids, and we're going to show the document grid. Now this looks a little overwhelming, but this is going to help us out. First of all, notice where all the divisions are. I've got them at every inch and also every eighth of an inch. So when I create things, I can stay within eighth of an inch and use this grid as a helpful thing. If you need to change your grid, you can always go to the InDesign Preferences, and there's our grids. And here's where our document grid can be changed up. I can make a grid line, in this case, every fourth of an inch. Notice there's horizontal and vertical. And so now there's a lot fewer to work with. I'm going to move it back to eighth of an inch because that's what our instructions want us to be. Okay? And I know it's difficult to see, but you can see my blue lines. So there's that there. And you can kind of get an idea where my cut lines are. Now I need to work out each individual face of the card. And this is where looking at an example may help out. And I'll leave mine out front if you want to see it. So this is the front face of the card. Whenever you create something, we don't want any element to overlap a corner edge. Have you ever tried to glue something to a piece of paper and then fold that paper? It'll buckle up. So you don't want to have anything important on the fold line. You want to give yourself about an eighth of an inch margin going around it. So I'm going to choose my rectangle tool. I'm going to set my fill color to black and my stroke color to none. And I'm going to draw off a rectangle inside of the front edge. So here's my document edge. I'm moving in 1/8 of an inch. Now if I started to click and drag, is that correct? Why is it not correct? It's not at an eighth. I want it perfect. So here's how I'm going to make it perfect. Let's go back to our grids and guides and turn on Snap to Document Grid. Now when I try to do it, it automatically snaps to those points. It makes it a lot easier to draw. And I'm looking at the edge. I don't want to get, I'm right on it. I'm going to back up one. So there's that. And notice that this front edge also comes out right here. So I need to draw that little point too. There to there. I'll back out. So there's our first little point created. The second one is right here, and I'm looking for the blue line, and I'm staying 1/8 of an inch away from the edges and the blue lines. Same way for this long one right here. Is that one correct? Nope. I'm off by the bottom. Click and drag it up. And on this side. Very good. I didn't even catch that one. So make sure on both sides that it's been created. Click and drag and redraw. Click and drag and draw. And it will turn out to be symmetrical. So if you get one side looking different than the other, you know you got something going wrong. This one is the only one that will overlap the two of them. All right. See any places that I've messed up on?
Your last one didn't snap too.
It didn't? Where is it? Oh, yep, I see that edge right there. Good eye. Perfect, right there. That's what I'm looking for. They all line up to the grid. I can turn my grid off now. Hide the document grid. So now you get an idea of what it looks like once it's created. It's okay for these to overlap. That should be happening. This is what I want you to have done for today. If you want to go ahead and start assigning these colors, you can do that as well. But once you've finished with it, we'll file, save as, upload the InDesign document to the other exercise page on our Moodle, the make a template. Just the InDesign document is what I'm looking for. Any questions? All right. Turn it over to y'all and let you start.